Hey there, welcome to The Empowered Edge, the podcast that gives you nutrition, mindset, and habit-building strategies that actually work. I'm your host, Jenna Hostetler, registered dietitian, certified neurocoach, and your go-to guide to break free from burnout, cut through the health noise, and reclaim control of your body and brain. Each week, you'll get practical, science-backed strategies so you can stop second-guessing yourself, sharpen your focus, and finally feel like the woman who leads her life, not just survives it. There really is no good way to start this out, so I'm just going to say it. The health and wellness world has completely lost its mind. And I know it's been this way for years, but it seems extra bad lately. Everywhere you look, there is some expert telling you that they've discovered the one thing you need to do: cut carbs, add carbs, go keto, eat plants, avoid meat, eat only meat, and people just believe it, no questions asked. We've been trained to follow rules, not to think for ourselves. And that is why so many smart, capable women are still stuck, frustrated, and completely burned out trying to figure out what the heck to eat so that they can end their day still feeling human. And I've tried it all. Every expert diet, every promised fix, and here's what I learned. The problem isn't us. It is the way we've all been taught to follow instead of think. I've tried pretty much every diet out there. Bulletproof, low carb, carb night, paleo, keto, whole30, low FODMAP, medical medium, vegan, elimination diets, wheat-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, plus protein shakes, smoothies, green powders, special vitamin supplements, you name it, I've done it. I was doing all of the things trying to fix, optimize, or prevent something that the diets promised, and every diet sounded convincing. They all do. Every expert had the answer, and yet none of it was working. I remember reading a book about carb nights or carb backloading, probably back in 2015, and I started thinking, this guy is so incredibly knowledgeable about insulin and strategic timing of food, but that's all he's focused on. He's not considering any other part of the body or what effects this could have on other systems. And maybe he had done his research and it just wasn't applicable to what he was writing, I don't know. But I started to see this pattern everywhere. Experts being hyper-focused on their one thing, but ignoring everything else. And here's why this is a huge problem. Our bodies are not a collection of isolated systems that operate independently of each other. Everything works together. So while specialists are great, they're great at their one thing, which makes them limited in how they can actually help. When you go to a neurologist because you've been diagnosed with a degenerative disease and all they're doing is looking at your brain, they're missing the possibility that your gut is causing the problem. And if they would look at your diet and check your gut microbiome and see where your systemic inflammation is coming from, they might realize that you don't need a new drug recently approved by the FDA. You need to fix your gut to eliminate the rampant inflammation and fix your diet to eliminate the constant toxicity exposure. And then, surprise, surprise, your body will start to magically heal. And that irreversible, incurable diagnosis they just gave you that will make the hospital and the pharmaceutical industry a fortune will just happen to go away. I see health and wellness professionals falling into the same pattern. They are missing the big picture. We have gut health experts who don't look at your sleep and stress levels, biohackers who look at metabolism and hormones but never blood sugar, diabetes experts who are so consumed with blood sugar that they never look at inflammation, the gut, or fasting insulin levels. Or how about anti-inflammatory gurus who tell you to avoid nightshades without asking you to test your inflammatory markers or ask if you even feel differently when you eat them. And here's where it gets dangerous. We have been trained to believe that someone else always knows better. So when the expert says avocado toast will ruin your metabolism, well, we just believe it without asking questions. When I was working at Kroger, we had a huge Wellness Your Way festival in Cincinnati that I worked. And there was a speaker there promoting her Greek cookbook, and it was a phenomenal cookbook. But she mentioned something when she was on stage about avocado toast being so bad for you, and you should never eat it if you're trying to lose weight. I think because of the carb to fat ratio. And I thought, well, that's crazy because I eat avocado toast, but I'm not fat. And I've tracked my blood sugar. It doesn't raise it. I don't overeat, and it fills me up. So what's the problem? Now, a critical thinker who's curious about this and after the truth and wants to know if blanket statements like this apply to her will ask questions. Is it the carb to fat ratio? Is it the type of carb? Is it the lack of fiber or lack of protein? Is it a problem if I don't have it every day? Is there a cascade effect that I don't know about? In what circumstances could I eat it and it be okay? Because if I'm health conscious and trying to get a specific result, which apparently avocado toast can hinder, it is in my best interest to know or dare I say figure out, to what extent this affects me and under what conditions or how often I can have it. That is what someone who wants to be in control of her health, her outcomes, and her life would do. But instead, we become so conditioned to believe everything someone else says, especially if they're on a stage and written a book, that we forget to think for ourselves. Instead, we go out for breakfast, and when our friend orders avocado toast, we say, "Oh, that's so bad for you. I heard this woman say." So then your friend stops eating it too, and the cycle continues for no good reason. You will never get to where you want to be in life, health, career, business, big exciting goals, if you allow other people to think for you. And we are doing this all the time now without even realizing it. And I know what it's like to feel like you can't trust yourself and everything you do is wrong because someone else knows better. That is exactly where I was when I was at rock bottom with my gut health. Tears of frustration and total hopelessness uncontrollably running down my face because I had read the books, I had done the research, I tried different diets that did not work. I saw a dietitian who put me on the low FODMAP diet, which was a direct contradiction to an online expert I found who said I needed to eat those foods that were on the do not eat list because they would actually fix the root cause. But here's the problem. Just like me, if you assume someone else always knows better, you will run around in circles for the rest of your life, chasing the next expert who has the secret solution to whatever you are struggling with. And hear me out on this. The chase will never end. You cannot get to the finish line when you are running around in a circle. You'll end up exhausted, burn out, and eventually give up because your brain cannot reconcile all of the contradictions it's been fed over the years. So it is so much easier to just give up and pretend like you don't care than to try to figure out what to do. That cycle is really easy to slip into, and it will never end if you keep outsourcing your thinking. So, if the experts aren't always helpful, and if you don't know what you don't know, where do you begin? You start by asking better questions, listening to your body, and filtering advice through your own experiences. When I started doing that, everything changed. It was killing me to live in that cycle, and the only reason I figured out what was happening, the only way I was able to heal my gut, was to stop outsourcing my thinking to the experts and start listening to my body and my intuition, actually listening to my gut, funny enough, and figuring out what I needed. Now, I'm not saying that we should ignore everyone who acts like they know anything. When I was fixing my gut, I still listened to experts and people who specialized in gut health, but I stopped letting them think for me. I took what I heard, filtered it through my experience, my knowledge, and what I had learned didn't work for me, and I figured out my own solution. And I realized when I was going through this process that is my superpower. Taking the information, connecting the dots, and creating something simple. Simplicity out of chaos that works in real life. And once I started figuring this out, I thought, okay, now this is something I can turn into my signature thing as a dietitian and a coach, because everyone has their thing. But there was a problem. I tried to develop my own methodology, process, or framework, but every time I came up with something, I thought of contradictions and I thought of reasons why the rules would not apply to certain situations, which was a huge problem. I felt like my years of research and reading and education were all biting me in the butt because I couldn't pretend like I didn't know these contradictions existed. And that is when I discovered my 4 proven principles of health. A set of principles, not rules, that work with any diet, theory, or lifestyle and actually make sense in real life. They remove the overthinking and they simplify whatever protocol you're following, taking the chaos and breaking it down into 4 simple principles. That is why Sprint Nutrition exists. Not to give you another set of rigid rules to memorize, but to teach you how to think about food, not what to think about it. Teaching you how to think for yourself, for your body, and for your life. Not follow trends just because some new method claims to fix whatever ailment has been bothering you. If you want to learn more about these 4 principles, I give a brief overview in episode 3 and show how they can help you ditch the dieting and get results that actually last. And if you're tired of chasing the next fix, the next expert, the next diet, and you want a better way, you're in the right place. At Sprint Nutrition, we are done with blind following because it's time to think, to question, and to finally be in control of your decisions, your health, and your life. And that starts by setting the right goals. So if you've been chasing the same goal for years and you still are not where you want to be, grab the link in the show notes and grab my free guide, Goal Getter, a 3-step process to identify, commit to, and take action on the one health goal that changes everything. And by the time you finished it, you'll be crystal clear on what you really want and will likely discover why your goals have never stuck before. So your homework for today is to listen to episode 3, download Goal Getter, and ask yourself, how does that apply to me next time you're tempted to blindly follow a new plan? Take action, stay empowered, and I'll see you next time. Okay, now before you pop off, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the one episode that could change your life. And give us a 5-star review if you learned something new today. If you want to check out all the awesome free guides, templates, and resources I've given away on this podcast, go to theneurodietitian.com/resources. You can grab anything you want, but only if you'll do it, because information without implementation is worthless. And here at the Empowered Edge, we're action takers, not excuse makers.